she is coming from Barbados. I have to tell you about this amazing woman. Her name is Jennifer Highland. So we're going to go ahead and just read her bio to you so that you can just hear how amazing she is. So Jennifer has been a public relations marketing communications specialist for over 20 years. She currently serves as vice president of strategic communications and stakeholder engagement for the Caribbean Israel Leadership Coalition, the NGO arm of Caribbean Israel Group, and FON Global, headquartered in Barbados. She also serves in the capacity of Group Director, Public Relations and Communications for Caribbean Israel Venture Services and Caribbean Israel Finance, the project and financing arm of the group. She is also the founder of HighMax Consulting, a marketing, communications, and public relations practice based in Barbados. Jennifer holds a master's degree in global marketing and international sales from Edinburgh, Napier University, Scotland, and she can fix that up, and a diploma in marketing, advertising, public relations from the University of West Indies, Cave Hill School, Open Campus. She has also completed courses in project management with the Inter-American Development Bank, marketing and general management for small business with the Barbados Institute of Management and Productivity. She is a member of Divine Visitation Assemblies in Barbados, where she is an elder and the chief protocol officer. We are going to just put our hands, our virtual hands together for none other than Ms. Jennifer Highland. Welcome so much, Jennifer, and you can go ahead and you can take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sherry Walton, for that introduction, and good evening to everyone. And thank you, Ambassador Dr. Thomas and the executive team of the Daniel and Esther Network for the opportunity to present on an area of communications that I love to speak to, and that is public relations. Good evening to the audience, those watching live, and even the rebroadcast from right here in the beautiful island of Barbados, from around the region and across the world. I am really looking forward to spending the next few minutes with you as I make my presentation on this intriguing theme, the rise of the Lighthouse leader. So we are talking about how to rise as a Lighthouse leader in the marketplace. You know, the thought of being a Lighthouse leader is a sobering one, especially when one considers the definition of a lighthouse and its responsibility and the consequential factors of failing to live up to its definition in the marketplace. You see, there are many leaders, but unfortunately, not many are emitting the kind of light that is synonymous with what it means to be a lighthouse leader. But this shall not be our portion. We are going to be shining and rising and rising and shining. You know, there are several areas I will be covering this evening in my presentation, and I'm going to set the foundation by debunking the myth of PR and its use, understanding the fundamental difference between marketing and PR. Also, we're going to be looking at the definition of public relations. How does it work? And then we're going to turn our attention to an area of what does it mean to be a lighthouse leader. And we are going to be taking a comparative look at some parallels between PR and some key terms in the definition of a lighthouse. Examples of some of your objectives, your tools, and your tactics, you know, used by some organizations and influential people that can help to stimulate your mind as you consider your own strategies to support your rise as a lighthouse leader within your desired field. I will leave you also with one question at the end of my presentation to ponder on. So this is going to be a basic introduction, a touch and go for the sake of time, but there will be opportunity in the future to expand further on the individual principles discussed throughout my presentation this evening. So first things first, let's get started. First things first, we're going to be debunking the myth of the use of PR. You know, there is this misconception I've found about PR where an organization or individual, for example, a public figure, fails to be authentic in their day-to-day dealings and operations, that business or a public figure, if you will, can hire a PR agency or a PR consultant like myself to try to whip their brand or image into something other than what it is. And some may think that PR is just concerned with making someone or an organization look good at all costs, disregarding trust, the values, and the shared interests of their publics. So really, what is PR? It is, let me tell you what PR is. PR is about bridging the communication gap. The tools of PR are a combination thereof are used to bridge the communication gap between a brand and its stakeholders within the marketplace, with the understanding that consumers want to engage confidently with a brand, a product, a project, a service, on the premise that which is being put out there for consumption is not a misrepresentation of what actually is. Anything other than that is propaganda. And what is propaganda? The term propaganda is the dissemination of information, especially of a biased construct, which is manipulative or misleading in nature, used to promote a particular point of view, whether truthful or not. And we're going to be understanding the difference between PR and marketing. The fundamental difference between marketing and PR is that marketing is concerned with the translating of activities into sales, whereas public relations is concerned with driving positive reputation through the use of various communication channels. With that out of the way, let's talk about the role of PR in the emergence and positioning of Lighthouse leaders. So I hope you have your notepad and your pen and you settle down with me at the virtual den table, and let's break this thing down this evening. So I want to set the foundation by examining the definition of the term public relations, as it is an often misunderstood and misappropriated term, as well as I would like to seek to break down the some terms within the definition of a lighthouse and that of public relations. So public relations, what is public relations? Following the World Assembly of Public Relations Associates in Mexico City in August 1978, this statement was agreed. Public relations practice is the art and social science, of analyzing trends, predicting their consequences, counseling organizational leaders, and implementing planned programs of action which will serve both the organization and their public interests. I mean, that's a very wordy statement and it's lots to remember, but things have changed since the statement was ratified. We also have another definition. The Public Relations Society of America agreed to a new definition. And that definition is public relations is a strategic process that builds mutually beneficial relationships between an organization and their publics. But how does PR really work? PR works best when it's structured around a brand, personal or corporate, that is authentic in its dealings as that individual or organization seeks to obtain buy-in and acceptance from the marketplace for that brand, whether a product, a person, or a service. Public relations communication has become more autonomized and made possible by technological innovation and advances in respect of social connectivity, placing more leverage and significant control in the hands of individuals and businesses in shaping their own image. This is understandable as information has become more accessible. We can also appreciate that within the current economic environment, that small businesses and even large organizations are trying to cut back their expenditure. But even with this kind of leverage whereby you can take charge in managing your own PR, understanding the fundamentals, the art and science of this particular communication discipline is critical in building out a PR strategy that will generate positive perception, encourage constructive feedback, and buy-in towards your business or project, or even you if you are a public figure. Competent PR marketing communications professional understands the industry and its nuances and can add more value in the shaping and maintaining of mutually beneficial relationships over the long term with your public rather than going at it on a whim. So how does PR work? I think we talked about that. It works best when, let me just go back to my slide. Yes, PR works best when it's structured around a brand, a personal, corporate image that is authentic in its dealings, and that individual or organization seeks to obtain buy-in and acceptance from the marketplace for that brand, whether a product or service. So what does it mean to be a lighthouse leader? And to answer this question, let's look at the definition. A lighthouse is a tower, a building, or another type of structure designed to emit light from a system of lamps and lenses and to serve as a navigational aid for maritime pilots at sea or on inland waterways. Yes, that's a very great definition. But someone asked the question, well, let's go back. If you have poor customer service, a bad product, a poorly thought out project or campaign, the tools of PR will only amplify and expose the flaws and weaknesses. At the end of the day, this will be unacceptable to your stakeholders, and you will be called out in the marketplace for one as being disingenuous. So now that we have established those fundamentals, let me give you a take on what it means to be a lighthouse leader. You can feel free to drop your thoughts in the chat. So to answer this question, let's look at its definition. As we said, a lighthouse is a tower, a building, or another type of structure designed to emit light from a system of lamps and lenses and to serve as a navigational aid for maritime pilots at sea and inland ways. And there are many versions of that definition, but I found this one to be the most potent context for my topic. And I want to highlight the parallels of some key words within the definition and how they are synonymous with and relevant to the principles and practice of PR. Once you grasp them and apply the fundamentals, positioning your brand authentically and legitimately in the eyes of your key audience, this is going to be a great foundation on which PR is going to be built. And there is a question that someone asked, if there were no lighthouses, what would happen? That's an interesting thought. If there were no lighthouses in the world, what would happen? And here we look at one of the implications of not being a lighthouse leader in the marketplace. And you can also share your thoughts and let me know. But the answer someone provided is in the literal sense, if there were no lighthouse, then the ship's captains will not be able to go in the correct direction and to crash anywhere on the coast. The real reason that lighthouses were built was to provide a sense of safety and guidance to the boats and ships traveling through dangerous waters in the darkness of night. So what does all of this have to do with PR? Figuratively, as lighthouse leaders, we say, as we have to be mindful of what we emit, what we say, and how we engage in the marketplace, as everything we say and do is public relations. Public relations plays a critical role in influencing public perception. If what you say is decoded and received negatively in the marketplace, it can definitely hinder your rise as a lighthouse leader. And as lighthouse leaders, we are to provide that sense of safety as we guide those who are looking to us, our businesses or organizations, for solutions that will help them to navigate the torrent of information and point them in the right direction. They want to trust that the information we say about our brand and about ourselves is dependable and trustworthy. So there's some keywords I want to pull out here. And we see a lighthouse is a tower, a building, or another type of structure, as I said, designed to emit light from a system of lamps and lenses and to be served as a navigational aid for maritime pilots. Yes, we noted that. And so what I want to take a look at, the key phrases you see here, there's a tower, there's the structure, there's the emit, system, serve, navigational aid. And this section, we are going to take a comparative look at the parallels between the key components of a lighthouse and some of the principles of PR. So essentially, as a lighthouse, you are a tower that emits light from a structure that operates by a system that serves as a navigational aid in the marketplace. A tower is the first thing you will see in the landscape of your surroundings. A tower commands attention. It is not easily missed. If missed at all the flaws will also be easily seen. And we looked at the word emit. The term lighthouse is a combination of two words, light from the Proto-Indo-European root meaning lut, which is brightness, and house meaning dwelling. So you are responsible for emitting light. And the purpose of a lighthouse is to emit light that shines brightly in the environment. And, if we talk about structure, a lighthouse building differs depending on the environmental location. they tend to have common components, but depending on the environment in which they function, the structure varies. And then another word we looked at is system. The system that operates the lighthouse remains the same for all. To function effectively, it must have these fundamental features: a tower structure supporting the lantern rooms where the light operates. And then there's that word serve. A lighthouse serves by providing light. Its core duty is to illuminate and guide. This is how a lighthouse serves. And how you serve would either advance or harm your cause. And then there's this word, navigational aid. The navigation system acts as a warning for mariners of hazards, establishing their position and guiding them to their destination. So you are a lighthouse. You are a tower that emits light from a structure that operates by a system that serves as a navigational aid in the marketplace. And there's some two bonus words that we're going to look at. That is maritime pilots. These represent your stakeholders, who you serve in the marketplace. And at sea or inland, this is the environment in which you function, the environment in which your audience and your stakeholder operates. If you do not understand the components of what you have to rise to, then as I said in my opening, no amount of PR strategies will help you to rise over the long term. You may rise quickly, but you will certainly crash shortly. So we are going to look at three important steps to take you, that you can consider as you emerge as a lighthouse. Number one, we're going to identify, assess, and implement, okay? Identify, assess, and implement. Identify, you have to identify the components of a lighthouse. You cannot be what you do not know. And you have to assess the components and evaluate where you are against each and improve accordingly. And then you're going to implement the tools of PR or combination thereof, which will help you to build the right strategy to boost your profile as a lighthouse leader in your industry. And we're going to consider now the role of PR and how it can enhance your profile as a lighthouse leader. Consider the following three critical factors when it comes to planning and building a long-lasting and effective strategy. Okay, there are three, and let's take a look at those. You're going to identify the objectives. The objectives must be achievable. You have to know the appropriate tools. The tools must be practical and applicable. And then you have to look at the tactics. What tactics will you employ? Tactics are the activities to be implemented to achieve the objectives of the PR strategy. They should be actionable, okay? Let's get to the meat of the matter. There are key components in planning an effective strategy. And you're saying, yes, finally, we are here. Let's turn our attention now to the terms within our lighthouse definition, their relevance to the particular disciplines within PR, and consider examples of how they can be aligned with your individual objectives, tools, and tactics. Moving forward, informed by your objectives, you can determine which tools within each discipline are appropriate for your strategy, how you are going to apply them in order to achieve your objectives, and done strategically and with excellence, you are well on your way to your ultimate goal of rising as a lighthouse leader within your sphere of influence. So a comparative look at the parallel between PR and the key terms of lighthouse. If you take these steps, they will provide a solid platform, foundation on which to build a long-lasting and effective PR strategy. Okay, so let's move on. So there are some terms that I want us to look at. We started out with the first one, and that is the tower. And you can see I'm going to go through these very quickly as my time is coming to an end. You have the tower, as I said, the structure. You are the tower. A tower is the first thing you will see in the landscape. A tower in this context is synonymous with your body language. Your posture reveals your level of confidence and how you present yourself to the world. An insecure individual will command attention, but for the wrong reason. What is critical to understand is that if you see yourself as less than a tower with the ability to stand confidently in your industry, there are some tools that can be applied that can assist you in rising as a lighthouse leader. And let's go back to the tower. And we see here on the screen, there's the term, the discipline, the relevance, the objective, the tools, and the tactics. A tower is the first thing, as I said, you will see, and that is concerned with your image management, your reputation management, and your personal branding. I'm going to go through this quickly. If you have the ability to screenshot the screen, just feel free to go ahead. In terms of your image management, is the ongoing proactive process of evaluating and controlling the impact of your appearance on you, on others, and the achievement of your goals. And the relevance to PR, if in PR, how you present yourself is important. If people are going to buy in to who you are and what you're offering, you can offer some objectives. These are typical to a large corporation, but for personal branding, you can have an objective to improve your posture, to strengthen and support your positive image online, to amplify the positive stories about yourself, your business, that you're doing right. Don't let others do that for you. You can inspire confidence and trust from others that can lead to opportunities, and you can contribute to op-eds in industry news. And the tools of PR to do that, and these are not exhaustive, but surveys, customer reviews, you can create some positive testimonials, and you can do some tactics like enroll in a body language and public speaking course if you want to improve your image. You can survey your clients and get their feedback on ways to improve. You can write your own stories and push the news across various social media channels. If you don't tell your story, as I said, someone else is going to tell it for you. And you can clean up your social media accounts, archived images that no longer aligns with who you are and where you are going. And then we looked at the word emit, and I'm going to move along very quickly. Emit is what you produce. So public speaking, as I said, the PR discipline, op-eds, opinion letters to the press, blogging, network building connections, and the relevance to PR is emitting the right message using the appropriate channels produces a positive sound in the marketplace. And take a look at the objectives that can help you to achieve that, to learn how to express myself clearly and build confidence in different speaking scenarios. You can take a look now, and then there's some tools. You can use a podcast, radio and TV interviews, speaking engagements. You can, for blogging and op-eds, you can use trade publications and advertorials. And some tactics you may want to consider is you can enroll in a public speaking course, opportunities to make yourself or your business known to your key audience. You can pursue, speaking opportunities. You can present yourself as a thought leader. You can pitch the idea to a publication editor within your field, or whether you can contribute as a guest columnist. You can participate in online industry events. And for those who run organizations, select a competent spokesperson who can speak well and who can represent your brand to your clients. So just look here, what you emit would either advance your cause or harm your cause. Everything a company says and does is public relations. It produces a positive, neutral, or negative effect. If you have the right message with the right messenger, backed by a great brand, using the right tools, you are on your way to being a lighthouse leader in your industry. And what are some of the tools that you may be considering now to you can emit and amplify your message in the marketplace? You want to think about that and consider what you can use. And then there's this word serve, to give someone service or present someone with something. And the PR discipline is corporate social responsibility, community relations, stakeholder engagement, and philanthropy. And the relevance to PR is that knowing who your stakeholders are, your audience, your customers, your clients, allows you to be more targeted and focused in your approach. And some objectives that you may want to consider for corporate social responsibility, you can sponsor the enrollment, for example, of 10 underprivileged children in a community academic program for 1 year, because it has to be achievable, measurable. And you can also look in terms of community engagement, connect with the community once a week to determine the impact maybe of an ongoing project that you have going on. And then for philanthropy, you can donate X amount of dollars time to help with the refurbishment of the school plan in the community in which you do business, for example. And these are some tools, PR tools: sponsorship, public meetings, volunteerism, donations. And there are some tactics that you can use, and you can think of many, exhaustive, get creative, but you can volunteer to teach an evening class. You can participate in community public meetings to show support in an area that is of concern to the community in which you do business. And you can also, for philanthropy, be a patron of a charitable foundation. So who are you serving? Taking the time to define your organization's key stakeholders or your audience within your market segment is essential for the appropriate alignment and of priorities and the building out of key messages. Failing to do so can result in scattered messaging, wasted resources, unmet objectives, and failed campaigns. So you have to know your audience stakeholders and serve them with excellence. And we also looked at, I'm coming to a close, navigational aid, also called, they call that NAVAID or ATON, is any sort of signal, markers, or guidance equipment which aids the traveler in navigating. So how do you do that in PR? Your social networks. What's the relevance? Helping others to navigate to you. How will people find you and connect with what you are selling? And some objectives may be establish a professional identity on at least 3 social media platforms. You can use social media to control your own narrative with your own content, and you can promote and position your brand in the way that you know you would want it to be positioned. And some tools you can use, these are not exhaustive. There's so many social media networks and applications and platforms, but you know, the common ones are like LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and others. And a tactic may be select the appropriate platform according to the message, according to the audience that you seek to connect with. And remember those 2 bonus phrases, maritime pilots and inland waterways. As I said, maritime pilots represent your stakeholders. Knowing who your shared stakeholders are is important. So you can, as an objective, build relationships by hosting 3 stakeholder engagement events twice a year. You think of award ceremony, banquets, you know, celebrate your employees, for example. You can host an awards day in the 3rd quarter. That's a tactic, it's achievable. And then we looked at inland waterways, and that could be research, knowing who, surveilling your industry so you can be better informed of the conditions affecting your market, the needs of your audience, their opinions, and their issues. And you can build, you know, there are many objectives here, but let me just skip over to a tool you can use, something that PR person called environmental scanning. You can gather data from social media forums, news articles. You can conduct focus groups, hosting a town hall. That's environmental scanning, trying to find out what people are seeing, how they're feeling, and what they're thinking, so that you can pivot and adjust accordingly. And another tool is media relations. You want to know what the press is thinking, you want to know what they're covering, and you want to link with them. So navigational aid, if your clients, your customers, your stakeholders cannot find you, it's not their fault, it is yours. You are not, maybe not using the correct navigational aid, or you may not be using it as effectively or using it to its maximum capacity. Yeah, so you may want to consider how you can make some adjustment. So the question that I want you to ponder on, what are some of the PR tools and strategies that you can implement that will help you to stand out as a lighthouse leader in the marketplace? In light of the definition, how are you going to engage with your audience as you seek to emerge as a lighthouse leader? How are you going to build trust and command confidence in you as a marketplace leader? So I'm going to ask that question one final time. Are you ready to rise as a lighthouse leader in the marketplace? So I hope that you've been putting your suggestions in the chat, and maybe Dr. Sherry will be able to tell me what they're saying, or you can rewatch the broadcast, because I know there's lots that you have to think about. So thank you for the time. Thank you for listening to me. And I hope to see you the next time we host the DEN conference as we talk more about PR, because this was a broad topic. There's so much that we can address. But thank you for your time, and thank you for listening to me. And I'll see you next time, if the Daniel Lester Network gives me an opportunity to present to you again on maybe marketing or public relations. So take care, and thank you, everyone.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you, ma'am. First of all, you gave us so much information. I think we're just like taking notes all over the place. So we will be rewatching that. You made that a very informative session. I hope that our viewers and those that are participating really took some notes, because the PR is very important. And what she's our Olivia Pope in Barbados, right? So she can determine whether an organization lives or goes under. If you all know anything about scandal, you know how serious PR really is. So thank you so much, Jennifer, for coming on. We appreciate that. We see lots of information. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing. Much appreciated. So they are really in the chat box. I believe that as they rewatch this, they'll be able to gain so much knowledge. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you for compacting 20 years into 25 minutes. We appreciate you. So awesome.